Single mom's amazing secret exposed, pretends to date a stranger, discovers he's a powerful CEO. Sarah stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, her hair a chaotic blend of tousled waves and exhaustion. The rhythmic clatter of dishes and chatter from eager patrons floated through the walls, reminders of her two relentless jobs. It was a life filled with routines that felt more like chains than anchors. Rushing through each day, she juggled the demands of working as a waitress and a part-time librarian while parenting her two young children. But today, there was a spark amid the monotony, a stranger whose smile ignited something buried deep within her. Just imagine what it would feel like to embrace a life beyond survival. Over steaming mugs in that cozy coffee shop, she had painted an impulsive narrative to her friends, fabricating a romance with Ryan, a striking man who exuded charm and confidence. Of course he's a CEO, she laughed as she lifted her cup, hiding the gnawing fear that overshadowed her every thought. The notion of belonging to that world felt exhilarating and terrifying all at once. Yet with each exaggerated detail she shared lavish dinners and elite gatherings, she craved the thrilling illusion, yearning for a break from the mundane. But the truth loomed like dark clouds ready to tumble. She felt unease creeping beneath her skin, reminding her of the chasm between her reality and the opulence Ryan's world promised. Each moment spent dating him magnified her insecurities. Would he even want to know the truth about her, a single mom in a suburban town who barely made ends meet? The sideways glances from her colleagues and the whispers amongst neighbors stung deeply. They questioned the authenticity of her enchanting romance, exposing her wild tale to an unbearable spotlight. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, each glitzy event made her feel more like an imposter. She was a star in a world built on a shaky facade, caught in a whirlwind that detached her from the realities of being a mother. Over dinners she felt out of place, her fingers trembling as she clutched the utensils. Pragmatic concerns, like her youngest child struggling in school, loomed heavily, drowned out by the glamorous distractions. When the principal's voice echoed in her mind about funding inequities, it all collided with her growing affection for Ryan, the man who embodied everything she thought unattainable. Just as she thought she could balance both worlds, Ryan divulged his past, a corporate scandal that had nearly taken everything from him. Questions churned in her mind. Was ambition worth the cost of loyalty? What did that mean for her if she needed to fight for better educational opportunities for her child, putting her at odds with the very world he represented? The stakes were rising and every interaction pulled her deeper into a labyrinth of moral dilemmas. But a confrontation came from an unexpected direction. Ryan's steely assistant hinted that she knew Sarah's secret. The words hung in the air like a pendulum, swinging between the pressure of maintaining the facade and the desire to unearth the truth, a truth that had become increasingly difficult to contain. Deep down, a maelstrom of emotions churned anxiously. Should she choose to uphold the whimsical story for the sake of her children's imaginations, or should she dare to dismantle the fragile edifice, revealing the genuine fear that underpinned her very existence? With every passing moment, Sarah stood on a precipice, caught between her dreams and her duties, where one decision could shatter it all. Sarah's heart raced as she left the restroom, the cool air of the cafe brushing against her flushed skin. She felt exposed, a fragile facade teetering on a precipice. The whispered suspicions from her coworkers replayed in her mind. Each muffled giggle gnawed at her already weakened confidence. Who was she really? The weight of her double life threatened to crush her. Ryan's world had become intoxicating, yet it also set her up for failure. She had spun a web too intricate to unravel without consequences. As she served coffees and plated meals for her customers, every smile felt like a reminder of the lie she had woven. She had been so consumed by the illusion of wanting more, a richer life, a sense of belonging, that she'd forgotten what was at stake: her integrity, her children's admiration, and ultimately, her peace of mind. The thought of revealing the truth haunted her. What if Ryan found out? What if his assistant's insinuation had sparked doubt in his mind? Pressure coiled in her chest as she envisioned their next meeting. Would he see through her bravado? Have her lies clouded the connection they had begun to forge? His disarming charm made her want to believe in possibilities, but the fear of rejection loomed larger, as did the image of her children's faces if her facade crumbled. She exhaled deeply and resolved to regain control of her narrative. Sarah couldn't keep floundering between worlds. It was time to make a choice. Armed with determination, she spent her spare moments strategizing ways to elevate her own life rather than simulating a romance. She dedicated late-night hours to researching scholarships for her children, a calculated step toward breaking the cycle of mediocrity that had defined her life thus far. The days turned into weeks, each decision she made solidifying her resolve. A routine emerged. Her dual existence was no longer a burden but a challenge to be faced head-on. When Ryan finally invited her to a charity gala, she saw an opportunity instead of an obstacle. This time, instead of fretting over what everyone thought of her, she concentrated on proving herself worthy of that environment. However, doubts crept in. Would she fit in? As she tried on an elegant dress that clung to a new version of herself, a woman reclaiming her identity, she caught sight of her reflection. The dress accentuated her strength, but beneath the glamorous exterior lay the same mother who fought for the future of her children. That knowledge surged within her, quieting her fears. She could represent more than a mere illusion. She could embody hope, resilience, and ambition. Arriving at the gala, Sarah felt a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety coursing through her. The ambient light cast a golden glow over elegant patrons, laughter echoing as she stepped into a new reality. Each interaction was steeped in purpose. She mingled with attendees, discovering connections to potential mentors, resources for education, and support systems. Yet Ryan remained elusive, drawn away by the demands of his position. When they finally crossed paths, his smile radiated warmth. But when he asked, "How's the family?" the question hung heavy in the air, and Sarah hesitated, the truth just beneath her tongue. Could she stand firm, embracing her real self, or would she revert to the safety of her fabricated persona? As they talked, the conversation deepened, revealing cracks in their worlds. She grappled with the tension between authenticity and expectation, her heart pounding as she weighed her next words. Just then, the assistant approached, a sharp glint in her eye. "Can we speak in private?" the assistant demanded, leaving Sarah breathless. How much did she know? The moment felt electric, heavy with the weight of Sarah's choices. In that split second, she faced a crossroads: maintain the illusion or confront her reality. It was no longer a matter of choice, it was time to confront the truth. Time seemed to stretch, each passing second amplifying the tension coiling within Sarah. The assistant's gaze was a storm brewing, a silent promise of confrontation hanging in the air. The weight of her choices pressed down on her, suffocating and intoxicating all at once. Was this the moment she had been dreading, or could it be an unexpected turn towards liberation? "All right," Sarah heard herself say, her voice steadier than she felt. She followed the assistant, who led her away from the gala's gauzy lights and into a quieter corridor. Her mind raced. Was this about her? Had someone pieced together the fragments of her carefully constructed illusion? What's this about? Sarah ventured, her heart a mix of anxiety and resolve. "You need to be careful," the assistant began, her tone low and firm. "You're not supposed to be here, not in this world, not with him." Those words sliced through her, igniting a duality in her spirit, one of exposure and possibilities. How much did the assistant know? Had she uncovered the tangled web of lies? Fear coiling around her heart, Sarah felt the instinct to lie, to retreat into the comfort of the false persona she'd crafted. But doing so would mean losing herself, and she refused to go back to that. I'm here because I have potential, she replied, surprised by the strength radiating from her. And I'm not afraid of taking a leap. The assistant's brow furrowed, as if she hadn't expected that response. This isn't just a game. He has people scrutinizing everything around him, especially women gravitating towards his sphere. You think you're ready for that? Her question ignited a flicker of anger in Sarah. Why was she being interrogated? Hadn't she already done the hard work to change her life? I'm ready to face whatever comes next, she asserted, surprising herself with her conviction. I've fought too hard to let anyone dictate my worth. If Ryan values me, it shouldn't matter who I was before. For a brief moment, the assistant seemed to falter, but she quickly regained her composure. Then prove it, she challenged. But remember, you'll be under a microscope. If you don't tread carefully, it won't just be your image at risk, it could ruin his reputation as well. As the weight of those words sank in, Sarah grasped the depth of the dilemma she faced. She wasn't just navigating her dual life, she was challenging the expectations of an entire world. Taking a deep breath, she responded, her tone resolute. If my integrity is at stake, then so be it. Own who I am or lose the chance for something better. The assistant blinked, perhaps realizing that Sarah wasn't merely a fleeting presence in Ryan's life, but a determined woman who might just disrupt the status quo. Returning to the gala, Sarah felt an electric undercurrent pulse in her veins. She could feel eyes upon her, but this time it didn't spark shame. Instead, it lit a fiery resolve. She wasn't just there to play a role in Ryan's life, she was there to carve out her own destiny. As she wandered back into the dazzling crowd, the gala atmosphere spun around her, people laughing, toasting, and discussing dreams. Amidst the swirl, she spotted Ryan, deep in conversation with a fellow guest, yet her gaze lingered on him, marked now by a sense of newfound purpose. Could she truly claim her place in this world? And how much longer could she hold on to the duality of her existence before her secrets unraveled at the seams? Sarah's pulse quickened. She would confront the swirling uncertainties head-on, but she needed a plan. One that would allow her to divulge her truth on her terms, ensuring Ryan saw her vulnerability as strength, not weakness. Yet just before she could approach him, a sudden commotion erupted near the entrance. A man burst through the crowd, his presence commanding immediate attention, and the waves of chatter sank into stunned silence. He scanned the room, locking eyes with Sarah, and a chill raced down her spine. What had she unwittingly stepped into now? Sarah's heart raced as the man continued to hold her gaze. In a fraction of a second, the room transformed from a jubilant celebration into a pressure chamber, every eye waiting for her reaction. Her instincts screamed at her to retreat, to back away and disappear into the crowd. But she stood frozen, a mix of apprehension and curiosity compelling her to hold her ground. The man's sharp features spoke of authority, and though she didn't recognize him, his presence was unsettling. What had unfolded in the moments before this wasn't merely an encounter, it felt like a precipice. She felt the weight of expectations pressing down on her. Was this man another gatekeeper to the world she had just begun to navigate? Ryan had finally noticed the sudden shift in ambience. His playful smile faded as he approached her, concern etching his brows. "Sarah, are you all right?" His voice, warm and steady, ignited a flicker of reassurance within her, but that flicker was quickly extinguished by the man's unrelenting gaze as he moved toward them. "I'm fine," she managed to say, though her voice betrayed her fear. The moment felt surreal. They were characters in a drama, caught in a plot twist neither had anticipated. The stranger finally broke the silence, his voice smooth yet commanding. "I didn't expect to find you here, Sarah." The way he addressed her sent chills through her. How did he know her name? She felt as if the ground beneath her was shifting, the very foundation of her newfound identity threatened. Ryan stepped in front of her, his presence offering a shield against the intensity radiating from the man. "Do we know you?" Ryan asked, his tone sharp but cautious. With a slight smirk, the stranger replied, "Not yet, but I believe we will." The ambiguity of his words hung thick in the air like smoke. Sarah could almost hear the gears turning in Ryan's mind as he weighed the threat. As the stranger continued to speak, Sarah's focus shifted inward. Discomfort curled around her as the assistant's warning echoed in her thoughts. She needed solid ground, a strategy to navigate the unexpected. How could she transform this challenge into an opportunity without losing herself, especially under the scrutiny that was now unavoidable? Gathering her thoughts, she recalled the strength she had discovered moments before. "Actually, we were just leaving," she said quickly to Ryan, urgency threading through her words. She wanted to not only escape this tense moment but to assert her agency. "Sarah, wait," Ryan protested, his loyalty palpable, but she sensed his confusion. This was her chance to take control, and she couldn't afford to appear weak or uninformed. "I can handle this," she insisted, grounding herself with resolve. It was time for her to show Ryan the woman she was becoming, not just the remnants of who she'd been. She stepped forward, her heart pounding against her ribs. "You seem to know a lot about me, but I don't know who you are. If you want something from me, I suggest you speak plainly." The stranger's confident smile widened, intrigued by her defiance. "It's not about what I want from you, it's about what you can offer in this world, given the right connections," he stated, his tone almost casual. She recognized the implication, a reminder of the precarious balance she was attempting to maintain. This was a heavyweight match, one that could either elevate her or expose her weaknesses. As the tension hung thick, Sarah felt a slow surge of adrenaline, clarity cutting through the haze of panic. This was about proving herself, uncoupling her past from the present opportunities. She needed to reframe the narrative thrust upon her, to find solid footing within this turbulent realm. But as she stared at the man, a nagging sense of foreboding settled in the pit of her stomach. Who was he really? What did he want from her? Before she could process these questions, she noticed Ryan's expression shift, caught in deliberation. Would he stand by her amidst this conflict, or would he falter as the pressure mounted? Sarah steeled herself. The moment had arrived, where she could steer her fate, but the stakes were higher than she had anticipated. Just as she prepared to respond, another unfamiliar face drifted into view, complicating her already tangled situation. Was this a new ally or further evidence of her unraveling plans? With her past threatening to resurface, she felt the intensity of her circumstances closing in. Would she find the strength to confront whatever lay ahead, or would she become ensnared in a world she barely understood? Sarah's mind raced, processing the layers of uncertainty before her. The stranger's gaze remained fixed, probing, and it was as if the very air around them vibrated with unspoken possibilities. She could feel the weight of her own ambitions pressing against the backdrop of this abrupt confrontation. "Interesting choice of words," she said, finding a steadiness in her voice that surprised even her. "Connections. You talk about them like they're currency. What you're implying is that my value here is transactional." The man raised his brows, a flicker of surprise flashing across his features, as if she had struck an unexpected chord. "Transaction or relationship, the terms are fluid in this world," he replied smoothly. "You'll soon learn that." Was this what navigating her new environment looked like? She knew she had to grapple with his implications. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about thriving. The tantalizing reminder of possibilities stoked a fire deep within her. But hanging just outside her consciousness was the tangled thread of her past. Sarah fought back the instinct to shrink into herself. Ryan's eyes darted between Sarah and the stranger, hesitant, and she could sense his internal struggle. The defensiveness in him flared again as he stepped a shade closer. "What do you want with her?" His protective posture was evident, but Sarah noticed the tension in his stance. He was bracing for conflict, but she needed the room to breathe, to maneuver beyond his shadow. "I'm here to offer Sarah a choice," the man responded, his voice unfazed. "A conversation, perhaps a partnership. However, every choice has its risks." Sarah perceived his objective clearly, he was drawing her into the fray. The voice of her former self whispered caution, urging her to step back and reassess before proceeding. Yet, something ignited inside her, a fierce determination that had been hidden for too long. Was this the catalyst she had been waiting for? What's the risk? She pressed, narrowing her focus. Probing deeper into the unknown was daunting, but becoming a passive player was far scarier. A commitment of time, perhaps even loyalty, he said, his expression unyielding. It's a dance of trust in an environment where trust is commodity as rare as truth. She swallowed hard, understanding that the stakes were far higher than simple networking. This was about her integrity, her agency. I need more than cryptic promises and vague allegiance. I need clarity. What's the endgame here? That endgame is unique to you, he replied coolly, straightening slightly, as if compelled by the gravity of her question. What are you willing to leverage for your aspirations? Power, success, perhaps connections that may redefine your standing? The question settled like a stone in her stomach. What was she ready to sacrifice? Would she abandon principles she cherished for the sake of advancement? This was a moment that demanded reflection but had no time for it. Ryan's concern deepened. Sarah, this isn't right. You don't have to engage with him. We can leave, but as he started to turn her away, she felt a surge of resolve rising through her. No. This is my decision. The strength in her voice startled even her. In that instant, the room fell away, and all that was left was the weight of self-discovery. Could she really claim her space within this intricate web? The momentum had shifted. This was not just about defending her past, it was about embracing her future. She turned back to the man, steadying her breath. Let us talk, then. But understand, I want to play a part in a game I don't control. He met her gaze with a calculating blend of respect and something more inscrutable. For the first time, a flicker of admiration sparked in his eyes. As the conversation unfolded, the air felt electric with the potential for growth, transformation. But amidst the exchange, another silhouette entered her peripheral vision, and a sense of dread snapped back into focus. Who was this newcomer, and how did they fit into the equation? Caught between her ambitions and the shadows of her past, her heart raced again, not from fear but from the thrill of stepping into an unknown she was finally ready to confront. What choice would she make next in this perilous game, and would the consequences lead her down a path of empowerment or entrapment? Sarah's senses sharpened as the silhouette emerged, disrupting the charged atmosphere. The newcomer sauntered into view, exuding an air of authority wrapped in a cloak of nonchalance. Her instincts screamed at her to assess the situation rapidly, but her gaze remained fixed on the stranger before her. The man had broached an enticing offer, but the stakes were rising, and she needed to remain vigilant. Am I interrupting something? The newcomer asked, a hint of amusement lacing his voice. His tone was smooth but edged with something sharp and penetrating. There was an intense familiarity about him, a confidence that put her on guard. No, the first man replied smoothly. We're just having a conversation about opportunities. Sarah noted the way both men sized each other up, as if determining the influence they wielded in this intricate dance of power. Sarah, the newcomer said, turning his attention to her. You're here to explore opportunities? That's interesting. But opportunities can be misleading, especially when they come dressed in ambiguity. He offered a friendly smile, yet something in his eyes suggested a deeper agenda. Everyone wants something, she replied, feeling a flicker of defiance surfacing. I guess it's up to me to figure out the truth behind the facades. An astute observation, he acknowledged, leaning closer, but navigating this world requires more than insight, it demands manipulation and strategy, qualities you must wield with precision. His words wrapped around her, challenging her, coaxing her to rise to his level or shrink back into complacency. Pushing through the tension, Sarah swallowed hard. Layers of her past echoed in her mind, instincts born from years of survival alone. She felt like the tightrope walker she had trained to become, teetering between regaining what was irrefutably hers and the fear of losing control over her own narrative. "Well, I intend to gain some clarity amidst all this manipulation," she stated, firming her resolve. "What are you proposing?" Each word felt like stepping stones across a tumultuous river. Would she leap or falter? "Let's just say, I can offer you access to networks that could elevate you beyond your current station," the man said, his voice low and persuasive. "But I assure you, access comes at a price. Relationships built on trust require sacrifices, risks. Are you prepared to invest intelligently?" The essence of what he offered hung in the air, tantalizing yet terrifying. Something recoiled within her at the notion of sacrifice, yet her desire for growth outweighed her reservations. She recalled the dreams she had set aside when she became a mother, the ambitions that had simmered beneath her surface. "Yes," she said, her voice steady as steel. "I'm ready to invest." Even as she said it, doubts flickered behind her eyes. The weight of her words pressed down on her, knowing that each commitment would carve a path that could lead to enlightenment or darkness. Ryan took a subtle step back, uncertainty etched in his brow. "Sarah," he whispered, an anchor trying to pull her from the depths. But she couldn't allow his fear to dictate her choices. It was time to break free from old ties and craft a new narrative. "Don't," she urged softly, turning her focus back to the men. "This is my decision." A glimmer of intrigue danced in the newcomer's eyes. "Bold. I like your spirit." He extended a hand, and Sarah hesitated for only a heartbeat before solidifying her choice with a firm handshake. In that moment, the shadows of her past began to fade, but the pulse of uncertainty still thrummed in her veins. What new path had she just committed to, and what power struggles lay ahead? As the atmosphere shifted, she couldn't shake the feeling that the real game was just beginning. Her choices might lead her to an uncertain redemption or a treacherous downfall. But all she knew was that she could no longer stand on the sidelines. She had to sharpen her instincts, prepare for the ramifications of her actions, and confront the kind of person she was willing to become. Just then, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, shattering the tension. Who could be so insistent? As she glanced at the screen, her heart sank. The message was from an unfamiliar number, but the content was haunting, an unexpected reminder of the very past she had been trying to escape. What new challenges would emerge from this forgotten chapter of her life, and how would they interlace with her fresh commitments? Sarah took a deep breath, her heart still racing from the unexpected message. The screen flickered under the harsh lighting of the bar, revealing only a few terse words, but they hit her with the force of a tidal wave. "I know what you did. It's time to talk." Her mind spiraled through a myriad of questions, memories flooding in from her past that threatened to upend her newfound resolve. With a practiced calm, she tucked her phone back into her pocket, focusing on the conversation surrounding her. Perhaps it was an overreaction, but uncertainty clawed at her conscience. The layers of her past felt like a noose tightening around her. The stranger who had just offered her an opportunity, an avenue to ascend, now seemed shrouded in ambiguity. She wasn't ready to entertain mysteries when her own history was so tangled. "What's the matter?" the newcomer asked, tilting his head slightly, scrutinizing her. His interest was palpable, like the weight of expectations pressing against her. "Nothing I can't handle," Sarah replied, determination threading through her words. But inside, she wrestled with the gnawing fear that this random message was a dark harbinger of what she had long sought to leave behind. "You've made a choice, and it's a bold one," the man said smoothly, an appreciative glint dancing in his eye. "Climbing the ranks requires more than just grit, it requires sharp decision-making. You could benefit from partnerships that challenge you, but first, you need to overcome personal obstacles." His words rang true, echoing her own internal struggles. Was it possible to harness this turbulent past as a source of strength rather than allowing it to drag her under? Outside, the city's pulse thrummed steadily, filled with possibilities, but inside, a tempest brewed. Tell me about these networks, she responded, forcing herself to divert her thoughts from the creeping anxiety. What exactly are you proposing? He leaned back, crossing his arms. A mentor, a sponsor, someone who can open doors for you. It's not for the faint-hearted, though. To elevate, you must be ready to navigate complexities. It's a world rife with rivalries and alliances. Can you handle that intensity? If I want to move forward, I need to put myself in the path of risk, she affirmed, more to herself than him. The resolve pulsed through her like electricity. This was her moment to leverage whatever talents she had, to build on the insights gained from hardship, and to step into the unknown. Excellent, he said, nodding. But remember, every choice forges new realities. You'll need to remain vigilant. He gave her a scrutinizing look. But Sarah knew the true test lay not just in forging alliances but in confronting the shadows of her past that now threatened to surface. Suddenly, a thought sparked in her mind. Could any of these connections help her face this unexpected threat? If someone knew her past, what else did they know? The internal swirl of thoughts threatened to drown out the conversation drifting around her. Her phone buzzed again, a persistent reminder in her pocket. Ryan, still lingering at the edge of her peripheral vision, exuded palpable concern. Sarah, his voice was soft but laced with urgency. Are you sure about this? A flood of emotions bubbled to the surface, and she recognized the vital decision looming over her. It was a challenge not only to step into a new sphere of influence but also a confrontation with the person she had always fought to protect herself. I have to take the leap, she replied finally, closing her eyes momentarily to quell the feelings of doubt. No more running. As she resolved to carry the weight of her choices, a sudden determination ignited within her. Rising from her spot, she faced the two men with newfound clarity. Let us discuss the next steps. But the shadows had not retreated entirely, they lurked outside her field of vision, waiting to ensnare her when least expected. With each passing moment, the air thickened with the realization that the challenge ahead was going to be monumental, teetering between ambition and a daunting reckoning. Just then, her phone buzzed a third time. This time, she couldn't ignore it. With trembling fingers, she glanced down, and a cold chill rippled across her skin. A name flashed before her eyes, one she had hoped to never see again. It read, "Your past has come back to haunt you. Meet me if you want to protect what's yours." What kind of storm was approaching, and was she ready to face this chapter of her life with all its complexities? Sarah's heart raced even faster, matching the sudden storm of thoughts cascading through her mind. As she stared at the message, dread mingled with a flicker of defiance. She had built so carefully, layer by layer, the new life she wanted, the ventures she was ready to embrace, and now this specter of her past threatened to unravel everything. Are you okay? Ryan's voice cut through her reverie, pulling her into the present. The worry etched on his face tugged at her own concerns. She took another deep breath, tapping into the resolve that had begun to solidify within her. I'm fine, she managed, though the uncertainty dripped from her words. Just this is a lot to process. He hesitated, then stepped closer. This isn't just a career choice, Sarah. It's your life at stake. What about your past? Do they know? What will you do if they push you too hard? A torrent of responses bubbled inside her, self-defense mechanisms that insisted on ducking into the shadows, far from confrontation. But the clarity from the bar's atmosphere was undeniable. This was a pivotal moment, and she needed to face it. I'm not running anymore, she stated, her voice finding firmer ground. If they know something, I need to meet with them and find out exactly what. I can't build a new life while shackled to the remnants of the old. Ryan looked conflicted, torn between support and fear for her safety. Just promise me you'll be careful. His brow furrowed slightly, a fusion of protectiveness and apprehension. I will, she promised, but a piece of her knew this was not merely an encounter about her past, it was her first decisive move in a new game that was just beginning. The prospect of that conversation, with all its potential for upheaval, was daunting, but it also sparked something inside her. As she stepped away from the bar, a flurry of possibilities filled her mind. Seeking advice from the elusive mentor the man had mentioned could fortify her position against this impending threat. She couldn't let fear warp her judgment. It was time to harness her newfound connections and cultivate a network that was both potent and wise. Navigating this world required more than just skill, it demanded strategic thinking and foresight. Taking a moment to assess her potential allies, Sarah recalled the stranger's words. He had mentioned that partnerships must challenge her, shaking complacency and provoking growth. She had to put herself where the pressure could either crush her or refine her into something stronger. She would craft her narrative. But she would need to boldly confront her past, the decisions that had defined it, and how those decisions now posed both barriers and guideposts. Eagerly, she envisioned the discussion that awaited her, one that would blend inquiry with a keen strategy for reclaiming her narrative. The buzz of her phone distracted her again with a new message: "You have 2 days to decide. Don't waste them." The sender's anonymity only deepened her anxiety. The ultimatum lingered like a specter over her. She sensed that time was now a critical element. With every ticking second, she could feel the stakes rising, yet her resolve solidified. The challenge was daunting, but it was also invigorating. In the fast-paced world of corporate maneuvers and shadows of the past, she felt an inner call to rise. Visualizing her next steps, she pictured herself walking into a room full of influential players, all waiting to see what she would bring to the table. What if she turned this encounter to her advantage? If she uncovered what the other party wanted, she could position herself as an equal rather than a victim. Steeling herself, she decided from now on, she would not merely react. She would take charge of the narrative and redefine her future. Meeting her past was no longer an ordeal, it had transformed into an opportunity for empowerment. Nervously, she glanced at Ryan, who still stood nearby, uncertainty lingering in his eyes. She took a determined step forward, ready to embark on this new journey. Together, they would navigate the layers of her past while forging pathways to a new identity. But just before she exited the bar, the doorway felt heavy, almost forbidding, a stark reminder that her choices could ripple much farther than her immediate desires. What had she set in motion? Would she truly be ready for what came next? As she ventured into the unknown, the question lingered: how would she confront not just her past, but also the hidden forces vying for control of her future? As Sarah stepped away from the bar, the crisp evening air contrasted sharply with the warm, dim interior she left behind. Each breath she took seemed to fill her lungs with determination and dread in equal measure. The looming deadline from her anonymous contact twisted in her gut like a coiled spring, sharpening her focus. Time was not her ally. Her phone buzzed again, jolting her from her thoughts. She glanced down, half hoping it might be Ryan, maybe even a comforting message. Instead, it was an email notification from a professional social network she rarely used. A pending connection request sat unread in her inbox. She hesitated before accepting. Networking had always been a calculated risk, but she felt an instinctive tug. Curiosity piqued, Sarah clicked on the unfamiliar name. It belonged to someone with a commendable track record in the corporate world, someone who weathered personal storms and professional rivalries. Reading through his profile, she noticed something intriguing. This individual had faced a scandal that held uncanny parallels to her situation. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could glean insight from his experience. With newfound motivation, she tentatively crafted a message, outlining her current predicament and expressing her desire for guidance. Would he respond? The likelihood seemed slim, but she had to try. Taking the initiative now felt like a breath of fresh air, the act itself empowering her to reclaim her narrative piece by piece. As she walked toward the nearby park, her surroundings blurring into a backdrop for her thoughts, her mind raced through potential scenarios. She imagined the meeting with the anonymous figure, their motivations, their knowledge, and most importantly, their leverage against her. This was no mere chat, it was a strategic encounter. Every interaction required skillful navigation, she reminded herself. Engaging in high-stakes dialogues meant seducing attention without revealing vulnerability. Sarah practiced her responses internally, her tone confident yet welcoming, her expressions keenly aware yet open enough to assess her counterpart. She envisioned taking control of every conversation like a game of chess, where each move was deliberate. Out of the corner of her eye, she spotted a mother and her young daughter, giggling as they strolled hand in hand. It struck her that her own motivations were twofold: she had her life to reclaim, her choices to solidify, but she also wanted to build a secure future for those who depended on her. The desire to shield her child from her past while preparing her for an uncertain future brought a surge of fortitude that made the stakes feel paradoxically higher yet more profound. This meeting, this chance to confront her past, wasn't just about exposing secrets. It was an opportunity to create a roadmap for her daughter, a testament that strength could be forged from adversity. As Sarah reached the park bench, she felt out of breath but exhilarated, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she initiated another post on her professional networking app, this time positioning herself as a trusted voice in the industry. Connecting with potential allies had to begin with her declaration of intent. She needed to act as though she was already positioned in that higher echelon of professional prowess she aspired to occupy. Just before sitting down, she caught sight of a figure approaching a man dressed impeccably, confidence radiating from his carriage. He was undoubtedly an influencer, one whose presence could either inspire or intimidate her. Would he be an ally or yet another obstacle? The air around her thickened as they made eye contact, and she felt the weight of her choices, manifesting in palpable tension between them. As he drew closer, whispers of doubt invaded her resolve, igniting a flicker of fear. Just as she began to question her readiness, he smiled, a gesture that could either fortify her or unravel her further. Had she stepped into a broader game? The realization settled over her like a fog, making the way ahead murkier than ever. Would he figure out her intentions? How would her past influence this unexpected interaction? She took a deep breath, grounding herself for whatever challenge this moment posed, aware that every choice now could dramatically alter her trajectory. "Sarah?" he asked, his voice smooth yet curious, drawing closer still. She squared her shoulders, ready to embody the assertive version of herself she was striving to become. The question loomed, pulsating with urgency: was this the turning point she had been seeking, or just another leap into the dark? Sarah stood taller than she ever had, her heart thrumming with an unfamiliar blend of trepidation and anticipation. The man before her radiated power, and his aura seemed to draw the attention of passers-by, pulling Sarah deeper into the fray she had chosen to embrace. "Yes, that's me," she replied, as steady as her resolve would allow. The confident facade she had constructed began to solidify into a shield that would protect her from the uncertainties ahead. She was no longer merely the single mom struggling to balance her two positions, she was a woman ready to reclaim her narrative. "I'm Alex," he said, extending a hand that was both inviting and commanding. As their palms met, a current of energy surged between them, and Sarah felt an unexpected jolt of clarity. It was time to pivot her life from one of survival to one of ambition and purpose. Within moments, their conversation flowed as easily as the nearby river, smooth, enticing, and filled with the potential for connection. He was insightful, navigating through her inquiries about his experiences while giving her a glimpse into the complex world she aspired to navigate. He spoke of alliances formed through trust and reciprocity, a tantalizing notion she had to internalize if she were to thrive. As the dialogue deepened, Sarah found it easier to articulate her aspirations, a newfound ease that emphasized her transformation. She described her tireless dedication to creating better opportunities for her children while revealing the vulnerability she had long concealed. "Every choice you make is an investment in your future," Alex said, his piercing gaze holding hers. "You've already taken the most crucial step by acknowledging where you want to go. The question now is how to position yourself within this world, and it sounds like you have clear motivations." His words ignited a fire within her. She realized that she was not just fighting the shadows of her past, she was cultivating tangible goals for her family. Each sentence that poured from her lips echoed with purpose. It was no longer about pretending, it was about proving that she could stand proudly amongst the elite. "Speaking of investments, I hear you're dealing with some pressures from your past," he said casually, though the gravity of his gaze told her he was far from naive. "Don't let that define you. You have the chance to reshape your narrative right now." His insight drew her in further, it signaled an understanding that resonated deeply. She needed to reclaim not just her present, but also dictate the legacy she would build for her children. The fingers of dread unwound from her heart, replaced by threads of determination that wove themselves tighter. "Yes," she responded with fierce conviction, "I will confront my past, but it will not define my journey moving forward." Every step she had taken, each late night spent researching opportunities, had led her to this moment. Emily and Oliver deserved a mother who embodied triumph, not someone molded by fear of the past. Their interaction took on a new dynamic, blending mutual respect with the nascent potential for partnership. Sarah felt empowered, the prospect of collaboration with him was invigorating. She imagined Alex as a mentor, one who might open doors that had previously seemed locked tight. As she delved deeper into her motivations and dreams, another message flickered across her mind, a reminder that she still had to tackle the ultimatum hovering behind her, but it no longer felt like an insurmountable mountain. Instead, it was simply a hill she could conquer with the right strategy. If her past threatened to resurface, she would face it head-on, anchored by the growth she had achieved. Sarah had transformed those chains of survival into wings of flight, she simply needed to choose the right path. Before their meeting wrapped up, Alex offered a parting proposition, an invitation to join an informal gathering of influential figures at a local initiative promoting educational opportunities. He believed that this platform could equally benefit her aspirations and fortify her position within a network of support. The offer hummed with electric energy, swirling in the air like the anticipation before a thunderstorm. "You should come, Sarah. It could be your first step toward a much larger vision, a chance to solidify your voice within this community." With seriousness etched into his expression, Sarah recognized the moment not just as a professional invitation, but as a stepping stone toward repurposing her identity. She accepted, and in that acceptance blossomed a profound sense of self-volition. In saying yes, she embraced the idea that she belonged in this space, there was no need to mask or fabricate stories any longer. As they parted ways and she turned back toward the park path, the weight of anticipation buoyed her, confirming what she felt, that this journey was finally hers to define. She was no longer racked with intrusive memories, she had found clarity. Now, the looming shadows of her past, the debts of those decisions, would not bind her. They would instead become integral elements of her growth story. The woman walking home, buoyed by newfound connections, was ready to encounter every challenge in her way with an unyielding spirit and clarity of purpose. Sarah's journey was no longer a solitary quest, she had positioned herself as part of a larger narrative, a narrative she had the power to shape. Her identity wasn't defined by previous struggles but forged in the fires of resilience and ambition. It wouldn't be easy, challenges awaited her, but she stood armed with a new perspective. As she set her sights on the horizon, the path ahead shimmered, a testament that she was ready to embrace everything life had to offer. Now was the moment to take control, forge ahead, and lead the life she had always envisioned. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment their reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, and don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions.